Hi there, Taurus. Thank you for joining me for your year 2014 forecast. I'm going to provide the structure of this year for you, and it begins on the first day with a solar return, and the Sun and Pluto forge a very important embrace which provides a backdrop of energy for the rest of this year. And that's giving you encouragement, Taurus, to be more daring, to move outside your comfort zone, to give yourself more information. So if you're interested in doing higher education, traveling, learning new skills, or having new experiences, or even relocating somewhere completely different, perhaps even overseas, it wouldn't be a surprise. But angling up to both the Sun and Pluto are both Uranus and Mars. And in fact, Uranus and Mars are in opposition. And I think if you work in a situation which is restrictive, there's not hardly room to breathe, then you may find as you enter this new year that you're even more determined to break the shackles that hold you back from being the person that you feel you really can be. But of course, life isn't always as easy as just us following our whims, because there's obligations too. And I think that you're someone who can be very conscientious about the needs of those people you care about. So there could be a sense this year, just generally, that if you can't follow your heart and create that greater flexibility and freedom, whether it comes from your own inner blockages or because of your circumstances, the people that you have to look out for, or your work, it can impact on your nervous health. And there could be times this year when you do feel that it all crowds in on you somewhat. So it is going to be important to have some you time and not feel guilty about it. So make that one of your big goals for this year. Of course, it's all about proportion. Otherwise, we'd all end up being completely selfish and life would just implode. It just wouldn't work. So it's all about balances. And if some of your checks and balances are a bit out of kilter, this is certainly an opportunity to develop more interests, to have more time for yourself, to feed your soul. That's going to be so important this year. But another thing you can do fantastically well is work incredibly hard, particularly for the first 7 months of this year. You can also find yourself minded to go on some kind of health kick, be more active physically, be more careful about what you eat and drink. And this could see you bringing in some kind of new regime which can be entirely positive for you, and it could be linked to your New Year's resolutions in terms of getting healthier too. Now, before the end of January, we also see another T-square forged, but this one's different. It still involves Pluto and Uranus, but it also starts to involve Jupiter, the planet of expansion. Now, these three planets are going to be operating in a collective from January through to May. I think basically Jupiter opposite Pluto can see that part of you that can be outspoken, blunt, to the point. You're going to want to have your voice heard, but it's also important to let other people have their voice heard too. You may find yourself also at times saying things that you kind of think afterwards, well, where did that come from? And this could be the welter of energy that builds up with Uranus continuing in your 12th solar house, which can make you very restless, but also very random at times. And all sorts of unusual energies or emotions can bubble up to the surface that you just think, well, where did that come from? And it could be that there are still some stuff from your past that you need to resolve, that it's not completely settled. And that could be emotional stuff, it could be to do with a relationship. Now, with Mars in this fine position for you, right through for the first 7 months of the year, you're certainly going to have no limit on your energy. But that doesn't mean to say that you shouldn't continue to try to find that balance between what's right for you and what's right for other people. If you're too much of a giver, it's not necessarily a good thing. If you're too much of a freedom lover, it isn't. That's really going to be the thing that you're juggling with for the first 6 months of this year. But when Jupiter and Pluto go in opposition like this, it also suggests that someone can use the power of their personality, the power of their intellect, or even a contract to push you into something that's not good for you. So be very careful around situations involving discussions with other people. If need be, make a record of things, get legally binding help. This could put you in a more secure position. Now Jupiter over the last 6 months as this year begins, but through till pretty well the end of the first week of July, is going to be in a brilliant part of your horoscope for you to think on your feet. And if you are someone who enjoys technology, this can definitely be good for you. You may even see yourself doing some kind of publishing or working with the public or interacting in your local community, using your home as a meeting place. But in the second half of the year, Jupiter moves into your family zone. If you're wanting to add a new member to your family, this can be exciting. It also could see you with ambitions to improve where you're living in the second half of this year. Now, once Mars moves at the end of July, it moves into your sector of relating. And towards the end of August, it is going to be going side by side with Saturn. Now, Saturn continues. I haven't mentioned Saturn yet, but Saturn continues in your sector of relating all of this year. Remember, Saturn has an awesomely bad reputation. And for sure, it's not an easy influence. But it teaches us an enormous amount of lessons. And it's going to be continuing to teach you this year the importance of having sincere and committed relationships in your life, not necessarily such frivolous ones, and weak ties that aren't worth so much won't necessarily stand the test of time. But towards the end of August, you may find that the relationship matter really, really frustrates you hugely. Try to keep a sense of patience around this time, or otherwise something that's got potential could go wrong. Now, as we move into the last 3 months of the year, we have some eclipses which occur in October. These eclipses are very good for you in a way, because I've just mentioned the role of Saturn, but the eclipse which occurs, the solar eclipse which occurs at the end of October, can be entirely positive about relationships, because what Saturn's doing all the time is teaching you more and more about your needs. Are your needs being met? Or are you interacting with someone who needs to learn more about your needs? And all of this can be going on all of the time. And when you get to October, there can be an opportunity to really improve things. But your energy could take a bit of a dip at the start of the month. And if you have lost a bit of focus on that health plan you had earlier in the year, it's time to really get back down to it and be much more disciplined. But the last part of the year does see you juggling with that same conundrum. How much do you give to other people in your commitments, work and obligations? And how much do you give to being a free spirit? Only you can come up with the formula to really crack this, because it is going to be one that sees you moving from one to the other. But by the end of the year, I'd be really optimistic that you can achieve something really brilliant with this background. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Wishing you a very happy 2014, and goodbye for now.